I do not stand against him. Middle-earth will fall.
Take care, Silverhand. If you defeat Sauron and take the One, you may become something far worse.
So Shadow of Mordor was a game that was popular when it came out. Not a lot of people were anticipating. Had a lot of interesting wins and got a lot of interesting attention for Game of the Year awards at the end of 2014. Yeah. And we've had this slow trickle out of DLC, and I played Brightlord last week.
Okay.
And I actually have missed all the other DLC. They had one that I guess was just an extra orc mission where you could do some things kind of prequel related leading up to events of the Black Gate. There was one involving Torvin, who was the hunter guy.
Right, yeah.
Where you could go out and check out some new beasts. And again, just didn't really perk my interest.
Sure, yeah.
I think out of all of them, they intentionally put the one where you would play as Celebrimbor at the end.
Right, yeah.
Because you kind of are Celebrimbor.
Somewhat,
Somewhat, throughout. You kind of do see his form, but obviously you get a little bit of teaser story stuff at the beginning of Shadow of Mordor about what happened between him and Sauron, and you kind of see that play out. So I'm curious, before we get into the specific details, what did you think of Shadow of Mordor, and how excited are you to continue that experience throughout their DLC?
Shadow of Mordor is a good game to me, and that's it. It's a good game, a great first step for that franchise, whatever they're going to do. Had a lot of problems for me, but I had a pretty good time with it.
I was looking to gather some people in here, and Hubert was like, I'll pass.
Yeah, no one's really enthusiastic about that franchise yet, at least.
But at least fun from a gameplay perspective, because that's something that I found is, I was going back in and I'm like, Celebrimbor really controls the same way the Italian did, and I'm kind of doing the same things I did before, but man, this game's fun. It's just...
I mean, it's always fun just to cut orcs' heads off and everything like that.
So I don't know, I don't really pay attention to specific moves, so a lot of the the buttons are obviously all doing the same thing, but I don't know if his animation is that different, if he holds his weapon differently. Same scenario where you get runes. He's got his stealth weapon, he's got his ranged weapon, and he's got his main melee weapon. The big thing is you don't slow-mo when you have your bow out.
Really?
But I think your individual strikes are stronger, and there's more of an emphasis on doing stealth branding. So they jump straight to branding, because that was in Mordor, they would introduce you to the fact that you could build up combos and then use that to deal a lot of damage. And I was like, oh wow, you can actually brand these guys and have them on your side, and that's kind of what you do right off the bat. So Celebrimbor found out about the ring. He's pissed, steals the ring from Sauron. Sauron's chasing him across Mordor, and he's just running around like crazy, taking out war chiefs and trying to build up an army to take Sauron on, and then you fight Sauron at the end. Which is kind of fun. He's definitely played like a boss that was unlike a lot of the you don't really have a lot of bosses.
There was no real boss fights in that game.
The introduction to some of the more complicated enemy types were quote unquote boss fights.
Right.
But this definitely felt in one of the stages when you got close to him, he would just pick you up and slam you down and do a ton of damage.
Cool.
So you did have to be kind of intelligent about how you faced him, and like I said, there was just huge focus on branding, and so one of the moves that was like an AoE brand where you'd stun a lot of the enemies around you, and then if you had already done enough damage to them, you would brand them and they would turn on your side. I was just spamming that like crazy. But the big thing is you actually, instead of having Celebrimbor's soul inside of you, you are Celebrimbor and you have the Ring of Power. And so if you click both thumbsticks, everything will slow down. You can drop as many executions as you want, as many of those brand AoEs as you want, and just go nuts. And then there are various spots on the map where you can do various activities and mini games to build up the duration of how long that ring thing is active. But everything other than that felt like Talion, and so it was interesting that I'm like I don't know if I could really sell this to somebody because it is more of the same, but at the same time, I was reminded of why I enjoyed this game and why this game was fun and just running around and branding these things. So I'm curious, based on what I've just told you, how interesting that is to you. If that's something that you actually see yourself spending time with.
I'm not that interested in it. What I am interested in is it a different area?
No, and actually they don't go into the beautiful side of Mordor. They were the two maps.
Okay.
In the regular Mordor, it's just classic dark.
And do you still feel I had a problem with that game? I know a lot of people disagree with me on this, but I felt literally too powerful in that game. I feel like I could do anything I wanted and not have a sweat.
There's a couple of abilities you don't have when you start out. I think one of them is you can brand people, and you can kill them, and you can absorb health from them, but you can't have them follow you right away, and you have to do a couple missions before you pick that up. But everything else, I loaded up the skills menu, and you have everything else that Talion had.
Okay.
So I think lore-wise, they obviously, Talion at the beginning of his journey is not as strong as Celebrimbor was when he forged the Rings of Power, so it makes sense that he's strong enough. And, if people have spent a lot of time playing the game and a lot of time doing the stuff with DLC, it would kind of be a bummer for starting back from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they did that.
And maybe it might be seen as arbitrarily extending the length of the DLC if you're just kind of grinding to get him more powerful to really do what.
Yeah.
So what would you want out of a Shadow of Mordor DLC episode to get you back into that game?
I think this is like a cool idea, like going back in time. I'm kind of disappointed it's in the same area you've been in already. I don't know how the missions are. Is it like the same exactly how you do missions in the original game?
You just go after war chiefs, and if you want, you can hunt their people down and get them on your side to
I wish he
make
would
those
play
battles easier.
Like quite a bit differently. I wish like the two characters would feel separate. I mean, I understand why they kind of feel the same, but I really wish they played different. Maybe like let you play. You said you could play as orcs in one DLC.
I think there's a orc mission. I think it's just in the orc stronghold. I'm not exactly sure.
That'd be cool if they let you play as an orc.
Yeah.
Get the inside perspective on it more.
That would be interesting. Maybe kind of you could switch between the orcs.
Yeah.
So if one of them died, you would take over another orc.
Yeah.
And control like a charging army or something. I remember when the season pass was announced, people were really upset because they kind of looked ahead at what was coming, and it seemed like you were saying, a lot of the rehash of the environments, and as opposed to something like the expansion that we got to Assassin's Creed Unity was a little bit more of the same. They didn't really change up the combat that much with the new weapons, but it was a brand new area that you went into. So it sounds like that would be the most enticing thing for you to actually explore a new, maybe a different environment, and not just really the characters. But it doesn't sound like you were that jazzed about Mordor anyway.
I had fun with it, but I don't know. It was just like a good game to me. I wasn't like super hyped on it, I guess.
And compared to on March 10th, we're getting a lot of some free updates. We're getting heists to GTA 5. We're getting a new continuation of Evil Within.
Awesome.
So these sound like more substantial updates than just getting like this new character and new abilities and stuff. So
we're getting the best thing in March, Bloodborne.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, okay?
That's
as far as RPGs go. So yeah, cool. So I guess at the end of the day, I had a good time.
Yeah.
But is not, reminded me of the fun game that was. But if you're just completely tired of that game, is not necessarily something that is going to make you super stoked.
If you like Mordor, give it a try, I guess.
That's all we can say.
Yeah, that's it.
If
you like Mordor, you're going to like this.
Obey.